Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Going over our new Blackjack AI all-in-one NVR analytic appliance. So let's talk about our agenda for today. First, we're going to go over the new NVR analytics. What's that mean? What are we going to be able to provide your customers and bringing in a newer solution to grow your customer. You may have existing ones now that have been looking for these features because they've been using the standard motion detection. Could be a regular contact. So we'll go over that today, how we utilize the new AI server, and then we'll get into the hardware side of it, so we can understand what is it going to take, what's kind of the base requirements from that standpoint from our Blackjack AI hardware. So when we talk about our all-in-one NVR analytic appliance, we're taking our new software engine, applying it to our existing DW Spectrum IPVMS software. And what we do here is we make you a one system, okay? So it's not like you have to have a separate server to tie into your Spectrum at the same time. This is going to be an all-in-one approach. Now, you're going to be able to still record other, camera feeds. So it's not like the whole system has to be analytics. You can actually break this down. You could have, let's say, 20 cameras and still have another, let's call it 40 cameras that are not analytics. So it's still going to run in that cost-effective, one license, lifetime license that we all love and enjoy about the Spectrum system. Because when we go out there, we're trying to win those deals for those customers. That's the one thing they love about our product, is it's a one-time license, okay? So one thing to really keep in mind when you're offering this Blackjack AI. So from the server side, okay, we're going to be able to do a few things here. We can do standard people tracking if we wanted to. Maybe that's what the customer is ultimately looking for. When we have those vehicles getting stolen, or maybe it is catalytic converters. There's all different types of scenarios that happen. Maybe it's an alleyway, maybe it's a college, that they're trying to find out where people are going, maybe having to find an individual who has been wearing a red sweater and they just been patrolling the area constantly throughout weeks, maybe months, depending on your customer's storage capability. Now, beyond that, we can do things of just object tracking as well with this solution. So when we have the general basis of today's world, everything is a motion type event, okay? I hate trees, I hate bushes. Even installers or even a lot of your customers don't realize that those trees, those bushes, and trying to find an event that happened makes it really tough. So with this new AI, it's going to be able to find those searches much faster. I'm looking for a truck. I'm looking for a person, okay? Now, instead of me just looking for a standard truck or a person, I can now go and say, I'm trying to find that red truck or that white truck that has been patrolling the area. They have been casing our business for weeks now, and we might get a clear image just by reviewing that footage. We no longer have to worry about those events where, hey, the customer says, as soon as someone comes into my parking area, let's call it, say, a dealership, we're going to classify that as a card. Well, when I have rain and I have wind and I have shadows and all these things that happen in our day-to-day views, we're going to be able to reduce that. And that's the benefit when it comes to AI, is because now we're no longer looking for everything and trying to find that one event. So the way we do this with our deep learning people tracking, as you can see here, we're looking for that skeletal structure. Okay. Most analytics are going to be looking for events and saying, okay, that potentially could be your person. But here, now we're able to truly define from that skeletal structure, that's a person. Okay. We can ignore all the other events that are happening, those clouds, those shadows. The one main thing that I always hate when I go in front of a K-12, I cannot stand walking in and seeing a flagpole that has 3 cameras on it and it's just eating up all the motion. You have the flag moving around, and then you also have the shadow on the ground at the same time. So it makes it really tough when you go and look at a camera that has motion events and you can't really determine that. You're trying to find when an event come through and you're just next one. It makes it extremely tough. So by using this AI, we reduce that dramatically. And we can do these things by detecting, from an object tracker, we can say, okay, which direction were they going? So for instance, we have a person here that's walking out to their car, but we also have a vehicle leaving. We can give you a definition, a real define of what percentage that is a person versus a vehicle. And we're going to be able to find things like maybe it's someone who's been riding on a bike, maybe it's a motorcycle, and those are like the main things that typically happen when you're dealing with, trying to find forensic information. When we talk about those CSIs of the customer that says, I want to zoom in, I want to enhance, but trying to find a true individual in a scene makes it extremely tough when it's motion. So this way of object tracking is another way we can go about trying to identify, we just want people, we don't have to do deep learning. We just want to say, okay, I'm looking for that van or that truck or just the individual itself. Now, sometimes when I come across customers, they will ask, what am I going to be able to do beyond that? Okay, beyond just knowing I found a person, I found a truck. Well, we want to know when those events happen. Maybe that's an individual that comes in and parks. Let's say at a gas station. Most recently, I don't know if you guys ever heard this, but there was gas stations where vehicles would pull up over the man cover and then they would siphon gas out. So for instance, you could still say if there is a vehicle that pulled in, maybe it was a van, maybe it was a truck, and it is in a stopped, you can write rules around this analytic now. And it's not going to be just, okay, I can do a line crossing or an enter. You can still do the same functions that you can do in our IVA Plus camera. So I can actually take these rules and turn them into a logical rule. And if I've ever been in front of you before, you will know that anytime we talk about outdoor, I love talking about logical rules, because even though you may have a person that walks up into a scene, that's great. There could be a kid, there could be an individual just rides their bike through, but they never come close to the building. To me, that's the same thing as saying motion is on. So for us to reduce those kind of events, I want to say when a line's crossed and you're close to my building, then at that point, let's do a notification versus having to say, okay, that one rule only does one function. So now we can take all the same analytics that we have from the IVA Plus. We're going to be able to do those enters, those exits, those tailgates, those tampers, objects removed. All of those are still going to be in this software. And when it comes to configuring, there's no calibration required. So I'm not asking you to go out there with a ladder. I'm not asking you to go out there with a 6-foot pole or trying to determine if someone is 6 foot and have them stand or put a vehicle out there. The AI is going to go ahead and do that for you. So from here, what I'm doing is I'm creating just a standard line crossing. And I can say, based on that line crossing, I may not want to be notified on all of the notifications, from the person, cyclist, bicycle. I can actually remove, or if I want to, I can change this from purple to a different color. Maybe the customer wants it orange because they like the color orange. The other thing that we are able to do is we have our color of object. So we can show when we're doing that search, that forensic search, we can go look for that red, that white truck, that individual who is wearing maybe a black hoodie and blue jeans or brown pants. So also here is where I'm creating an enter, area. And I can still drag this around very similar that you can do in our IVA camera models. And again, if I don't like the color purple here, I can change it to yellow just for customers' need. But I don't need to know that if a person or cyclist or bicycle or motorcycle, any of those come through here. I just want to know when trucks come through here. If a truck enters into that area, I want to be notified. So when we get into the spectrum side, you can see, we have our inner box, we have our line crossing, but now we can create rules. Okay, now we need to notify individuals. So here we can create and say, I want to know when an event happens on this camera, on this stream, when something enters, because I've already classified if trucks enter, and I want to, let's say, I want it to pop up full screen based on my layout. And I can select what cameras do I want that to be displayed. But beyond just having something pop up on your screen for your client software, you could do the things of a push notification. So for instance, we could have when that car drives through, across that line, hits that box, let's get that notification right out of the gate. Okay, again, we're trying to get the right information, the correct information to the customer versus when it rains, when it snows, when those spider webs start displaying. We want to find out what is the object and communicate that. But beyond just those standard notifications, we can pull things in. So for instance, if you've ever encountered our Night Watch product, we could use, for instance, a hybrid. If we use the hybrid model, we could have that IR that's illuminating the entire area. And if it detects a camera that's using the AI, sees a person, I always love showing it, turn that white light on. Okay, let's see what colors they're wearing, what vehicle is coming in, and what is that color. And we could still strobe it. So we can strobe that information, get their attention, maybe they look up, hopefully they run off, and we reduce the events. We reduce the loss or the damage that the customer, hopefully, that has been seen. We want to try to get that to stop. And this is how you can do that by pulling in other products. You can even take, for instance, PTZs. It detects a individual far out and you have a PTZ tied to it. Let's set that preset and zoom it over into that area. And let's get a tighter shot of that person. But one of the other additional benefits when you bring in a Blackjack AI server is if you've noticed, if you've downloaded our Spectrum Gen 5, you've seen that there's new recording methods. Okay, we've always had a traditional record, the motion low res, but we've changed that because we knew we were going to grow this product. So when we have these things like object, maybe you want to try to save that customer a lot of storage. Okay, it's a big customer of yours. They have a lot of events that are happening outside. So instead of having that continuous motion low res, we can just say, look, let's just get the object. If it classifies a person or a vehicle, we're going to just record that event. We don't need everything else. very similar to just standard motion. But you can also do things of saying, I want motion plus low res, which is also nice because sometimes you're going to have those events where you're using traditional just IR lighting and you need to be able to see that motion event, still record that event. But when that object gets closer to the scene, you're going to be able to classify, okay, I got a person, let's get that notification to the customer. And with this type of software, it helps you achieve additional things, from doing a backup. For instance, we've always had, you had to back up everything all at once. That's it. You didn't have much of a selection. Now we can do those certain things, say, look, I just want to get my objects. That's all I need. I don't need anything more than that. We could do certain things of maybe bookmarks or the objects plus bookmarks. That's a great benefit, okay? Especially when you get into, let's say, the cannabis, the K-12. When those events happen, you want those moved off and stored somewhere else. It's a very nice feature, especially when you have customers that need to expand. They need more storage. This will help them from this standpoint. They may not need all of it, just give them the important information again. So from the new Spectrum Gen 5, we've added this advanced action with the under objects. So within here, we can actually start doing that classification. You've seen this in 4.2, but now we're able to get a pop-up window and we can see the objects clearly and have it play back just a small segment of that. So if it's not the right vehicle or person that you're trying to find, then it's easy for you to select the next video feed. So for instance, I want to show you a camera here, just give you an idea of what that would look like. So if I pull up my fence camera and I go to advanced and get it over here. So now I'm looking for anything that is a truck. Now from here, I could say, all right, maybe I want to go look for all the color equals white. And let's go find all the white vans. Or maybe, it could be another truck or a U-Haul. Maybe it's a U-Haul in the area that we need to go back and find out when they were coming through. How often have they been casing this area? Okay, so this is a nice benefit of you reducing that search. Again, if I go look for the U-Haul, I may just have to draw an area of motion and just wait until I see that, till I find that. So really slick, really fast, finding that information, for your customer, because finding that is of the essence. We need that information quickly so we can get it to the right individuals. If that's police, if that's a manager, if that's a principal, those things need to happen very quickly because then we no longer have to worry about that subject. Let's get that person away. So let's talk about the hardware now. So we have 3 models of servers right now. We have our mid tower. We have our tower that has RAID capability. And then we also have our PRAC. If you've used our PRAC before, very similar to the system. So we're still going to be able to do the 600 across the PRAC. We're going to be able to do that across the tower, but the mid-size tower does drop it down to 480. And as you can see here, the storage, ranges from 64 to 96 or 24 to 480. Now, you are only going to be able to do up to 64 streams at a secondary stream when you're using the analytics on this. But keep in mind, when it comes to this server, you could still have those 64 cameras. Maybe I need another additional 20 cameras that don't really pertain to AI, and I need to do some additional recording there. So you will be able to add additional cameras onto that. And I would say when you get to that point, work with your sales engineer in your territory, and they'll be able to assist you on selecting the right model and what the streams would look like. Obviously, they would need to know what cameras you plan on to use, and they can work with you and figure out and spec a system for your customer. Now, one big question that's always come up is the licensing. How does that work? So keep in mind, in Spectrum, you have a recording license. You will still need a recording license. When you are wanting to use an AI camera stream, you will need a license per stream. So understand, if you have a multi-sensor, for instance, you will need a license for each one of those streams. Okay, it's not a one-for-one in this aspect. So you get one Spectrum license, you can cover 4 streams to record, but you will need 4 licenses for each one of those if you plan to use AI against that. So that is how the licensing structure will work on that. And the pricing is very similar to our current pricing for licensing a Spectrum system today. So you shouldn't run into much problems there. If you do, I would say talk to your regional, talk to your sales rep, and they will be able to assist you, designing that system and tell you exactly what the pricing will be. One thing I always say from sales engineer, pricing changes, they go up, they go down, depending. So I stay out of pricing. I always send it to the salesperson to help work with you and help win those deals with your customer. So just so you guys understand, we still have a 5-year limited warranty on that. Still Seagate Skyhawk drives are in these systems. These systems will be kind of a closed system still, all right? This is not where you will be able to download this software like you can with Spectrum. You will only be able to use the Spectrum AI with our Blackjack servers. So if you do run across a customer that wants that, again, this is where we push our product to help you win those sales. So with that, if we have any questions, there we go. Let's see here, what we got coming in. So good one here. We have encoders. So if you have, let's say, an analog, let's say you have a camera that's been there for, I don't know, 5, 6, 8 years, and it still works. So looking at the model, we'll need to see what that secondary stream is. From there, we can look to bring those into AI. We can bring in a lot of cameras. If you've looked at our Spectrum list, compatibility list, there's a lot of models that we can bring in. But again, we want to look at that model first to truly identify if it meets the demand for an AI. Let's see. You will need, so here's a question about adding existing AI. No, you will need to buy a new server. I would say if it's recent, talk to your sales rep, see if there's anything they can do there, but you will not be able to download. This does require a specific graphics card for you to be able to use the AI.